Hey Internet family, today is Monday, July 27th. I'm coming at you from Los Angeles and all is well out here. Hope you guys are doing well wherever you are in the world, whenever you see this. So as part of the Relationship Upgrades course that I'm guiding some soul family through, one of the books that we're focusing on, one of the wisdom, I almost said wisdom tradition, and I don't think I'd consider it a wisdom tradition, but I think it should be, which is mastering love, which is mastering the love languages. And I find that generally people get so excited about falling in love, and then once they're in love, once they have the partner that they can trust, this funny thing happens. They don't choose to continue to master the act of loving, the action of being in love, of loving each other well. So often people kind of put their partners in their relationship on the shelf and say, okay, well, I have that. I'm going to focus on other areas of my life. So let's read some excerpts because I would love to pass on to you guys, and I would definitely recommend this book, The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. It's so good. You can listen to it on audiobook. It's less than 5 hours long, great for a road trip. I think every couple should listen to this or read it, because it gives you an arsenal of ways that you can show love to each other, ways that you can understand what each other need. Because out of the 5 love languages, usually the ones that you naturally need to receive aren't necessarily the same ones that you need to give, or the ones that your partner needs to receive. That's why so often you can say, well, I did X, Y, and Z for you, which is what you would have wanted, but your partner may not receive love in that way. And this is just trait behavior. It's not necessarily, you can learn to speak new love languages, which is what this book is all about, as far as what you give. But what you receive usually is formed in childhood, probably even some past life stuff going on there. So the idea is to learn to speak each other's love languages. So in this video, I'm going to point out some excerpts from the first love language, which is words of affirmation. But before that, there are a couple things I wanted to read to you guys from where they're talking about why to do this work. Okay, first off, this is from a section called From In Love to Real Love, because there's the infatuation where you just go above and beyond for each other, you show your best. But then once you're actually with each other, once you're actually in love, how do you cultivate that love? So here we go. We can recognize the in-love experience for what it was, a temporary emotional high that usually lasts a certain amount of time, and now pursue real love with our spouse. That kind of love is emotional in nature, but not obsessional. It is a love that unites reason and emotion. It involves an act of the will and requires discipline, and it recognizes the need for personal growth. Our most basic emotional need is not to fall in love, but to be genuinely loved by another, to know a love that grows out of reason and choice, not instinct. I need to be loved by someone who chooses to love me, who sees in me something worth loving. That kind of love requires effort and discipline. It is the choice to expend energy in an effort to benefit the other person, knowing that if his or her life is enriched by your effort, you too will find a sense of satisfaction, the satisfaction of having genuinely loved another. It does not require the euphoria of the in-love experience. In fact, true love cannot begin until the in-love experience has run its course. It's interesting. We cannot take credit for the kind and generous things we do while under the influence of the obsession. We are pushed and carried along by an instinctual force that goes beyond our normal behavior patterns. But if, once we return to the real world of human choice, we choose to be kind and generous, that is real love. How do we meet each other's deep emotional need to feel loved? If we can learn that and choose to do it, then the love we share will be exciting beyond anything we ever felt when we were infatuated. Okay, so first love language is words of affirmation. Here's some of what Dr. Chapman wrote. This guy's a marriage counselor. He may do other things too, but this book is made from lots and lots and lots of experiences he's had working with couples over the years. And this book is super down to earth. It's not spiritual. It's not esoteric. It gives you examples of how you can do this stuff. I'll show you. Okay, the first love language, words of affirmation. Here we go. Mark Twain once said, "I can live for 2 months on a good compliment." If we take Twain literally, 6 compliments a year would have kept his emotional love tank at the operational level. Your spouse will probably need more. One way to express love emotionally is to use words that build up. Solomon, author of the ancient Hebrew wisdom literature, wrote, "The tongue has the power of life and death." Many couples have never learned the tremendous power of verbally affirming each other. Verbal compliments, or words of appreciation, are powerful communicators of love. They are best expressed in simple, straightforward statements of affirmation, such as, "You look sharp in that suit." "Do you ever look incredible in that dress? Wow." "I really like how you're always on time to pick me up at work." "Thanks for getting the babysitter lined up tonight. I want you to know I don't take that for granted. You can always make me laugh." See, these are very simple things. There's some other really good advice in here. Let's see. Okay, so there's examples of things that you can say, ways that you can pay attention. Let's see. Because if your partner, and this isn't just for relationships that are romantic in nature, this book is about that, but these can be taken to all of your relationships, your friendships, your family relationships, even your coworkers to some extent, depending on how close you are. Okay, so here we go. Psychologist William James said that possibly the deepest human need is the need to feel appreciated. Words of affirmation will meet that need in many individuals. If you are not a man or woman of words, if it is not your primary love language, but you think it may be the love language of your spouse or anyone that you love, let me suggest that you keep a notebook entitled Words of Affirmation. This is some of this grounded, great advice that I love in this book. When you read an article or a book on love, record the words of affirmation you find. When you hear a lecture on love, or you overhear a friend saying something positive about another person, write it down. In time, you will collect quite a list of words to use in communicating love to your spouse. You may also want to try giving indirect words of affirmation, that is, saying positive things about your spouse when he or she is not present. Eventually, someone will tell your spouse, and you will get full credit for love. Tell your wife's mother how great your wife is. When her mother tells her what you said, it will be amplified, and you will get even more credit. Also affirm your spouse in front of others when he or she is present. When you are given public honor for an accomplishment, be sure to share the credit with your spouse. You may also try your hand at writing words of affirmation. Written words have the benefit of being read over and over again. So some of that talks about directly to, and some of it talks about speaking to others. And I find that in this time of social media, that's an entirely different love language, which is, do we publicly share a relationship or not? And that's something that everyone has different ideas about and preferences for. So it's important to talk to each other and see. Okay. Some more interesting things here about being honest and kind. So being honest about how you feel, but doing it in such a way that, again, builds the other up or equips them with information about you rather than tearing them down. Example: "I would be delighted to wash dishes tonight," said in a snarling tone, will not be received as an expression of love. On the other hand, we can share pain, sadness, and even anger in a kind manner, and that will be an expression of love. "I felt disappointed and hurt that you didn't offer to help me this evening," said with gentle directness, can be an expression of love. The person speaking wants to be known by her spouse. She is taking steps to build intimacy by sharing her feelings. She is asking for an opportunity to discuss a hurt in order to find healing. The same words expressed with a loud, harsh voice will not be an expression of love, but an expression of condemnation and judgment. That's another thing that you can think about when things come up, when trigger points come up, how you interact with each other. When someone comes to you with something that can be adjusted or something that hurt them, do you allow it in? Do you think about it and allow yourself to hear it? Or do you backlash with a wall of energy? Different things are needed at different times, with your relationship. Okay, again, here's another little bit of the power of words and what is possible, because we're still growing. We grow over our whole lives. Our souls come more and more into our bodies over the course of our lives. That's why the elders in our community hold such wisdom. Perhaps your spouse has untapped potential in one or more areas of life. That potential may be awaiting your encouraging words. Perhaps she needs to enroll in a course to develop that potential. Maybe he needs to meet some people who have succeeded in that area who can give him insight on the next step he needs to take. Your words may give your spouse the courage necessary to take that first step. Please note that I am not talking about pressuring your spouse to do something that you want. I'm talking about encouraging him to develop an interest that he already has. And that, of course, takes active listening. You have to listen to what your spouse is saying. You have to find ways to speak to them so you guys both feel heard. Ending on this. Most of us have more potential than we will ever develop. What holds us back is often courage. A loving spouse or friend or family member can supply that all-important catalyst. Of course, encouraging words may be difficult for you to speak. It may not be your primary love language. If you have a pattern of critical and condemning words, it may take great effort for you to learn this second language, but I can assure you that it will be worth the effort. Over and over in this book, he talks about how learning a new love language, especially if it's not one that you often use, that you already know, or that you have even necessarily valued before, is like learning a foreign language, but how valuable it is, because happy relationships around you are what the value of life truly is. You never hear people on their deathbed saying they wish they had worked more and made more money. You do hear people on their deathbed saying they wish they'd experienced their family more. They wish they experienced their loved ones more. So here's how to talk to your spouse if their spouse love language is words of affirmation. To remind yourself that words of affirmation is your spouse's primary love language, print the following on a card and put it on a mirror or other place where you will see it daily. Words are important! Exclamation point. Words are important! Exclamation point. Words are important! Exclamation point. 2. For 1 week, keep a written record of all the words of affirmation you give your spouse each day. You might be surprised how well or how poorly you're speaking words of affirmation. 3. Set a goal to give your spouse a different compliment each day for 1 month. If an apple a day keeps the doctor away, maybe a compliment a day will keep the counselor away. You may want to record these compliments also so you will not duplicate the statements. It's also just nice to see what you appreciate about the person that you are with, because you're with them for a reason. 4. Learn to say I love you or other expressions of affirmation in a couple of different languages. That's fun. 5. Compliment your spouse in the presence of his parents or friends. You will get double credit. Your spouse will feel loved and the parents will feel lucky to have such a great son-in-law or daughter-in-law. 6. Look for your spouse's strengths and tell her how much you appreciate those strengths. Be specific. I like how you reach out to people at church who don't seem to have anyone to talk to. Or, you're really keeping up with the job search. I know it'll pay off. 7. Occasionally email or text a note of affirmation during the day or when one of you is traveling. Or if you know your spouse is having a hard day, send a link to a funny website. And finally, 8. Thank your mate for something they do routinely and wouldn't expect to be complimented for. In my personal life, words of affirmation are very important. Especially in my platonic relationships, I find that because in romantic relationships, things like touch and quality time, quality time is one of my biggest ones, but words of affirmation in my mind are cherished treasures that I keep in my memory and that tell me how people really feel. Same token, I take words very seriously, so I find that it is an extra challenge to be in a relationship of any sort, friendship, romance, whatever, with someone who, for instance, gets angry and says things they don't mean. I minimize those relationships in my life because I take words very seriously, words of affirmation being one of my primary love languages. So that's one of them. I'll come and check in on more of them for you guys. This is a great book. Get it, read it, listen to it. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. The 5 Love Languages, The Secret to Love That Lasts by Gary Chapman. Okay, sending you guys love. Hope you're having a beautiful day today. Hope this crazy world is treating you as well as it can, and that you're standing up for yourself and others in ways that keep your cup full and that benefit your community as well. Bye, guys.